Okay, so I watched The Conjuring like just under 2 weeks ago now. And I still remember most things about the movie, so I still feel as if I can talk about it like comfortably. Okay, so first of all, I want to talk about what I think of James Wan, who directed this movie. I love James Wan because he and Lee Winnell gave birth to the Saw series, which is one of my most favourite film series of all time. So for that reason alone, I kind of feel as if I owe it to him, to James Wan. I owe it to James Wan to watch every one of his movies from this point onwards. No matter how bad his movies may get, I will continue watching them for that fact alone. But turns out every single one of his movies he's made good movies, basically. The movies he's made have been awesome. Consistently awesome, up until now, I'll say. Death Sentence, I really liked, the one with Kevin Bacon. I love Kevin Bacon. I love the movie. It's a really simple revenge story, but very enjoyable. Insidious, I really liked Insidious. I know a lot of people really hated the second half of Insidious. A lot of people feel as if the second half of Insidious is where the film falls apart. Personally, I like the second half of Insidious as well. Like, I think it kind of turns into like a creature feature. You know, in a sense, in creature features, you can kind of just like have fun with the creature design. I kind of felt the same way about Insidious, where you can kind of just have fun admiring the ghost designs. That's kind of how I felt about the second half of Insidious. A lot of people didn't like that. I did. So I liked Insidious. I think that's a great, solid horror movie. Dead Silence, I feel as if is really underrated. It has a great twist. Like, it's not amazing. The movie isn't amazing, but it's a decent horror movie. And almost fell off. And the twist for Dead Silence was actually quite good. Like, it really got me. That was actually a really good twist. Yeah, okay, so of course, James Wan, I was shocked. Like, it blew my mind when I found out he was directing Fast and Furious 7. Like, that's the last thing I ever would have expected him to be directing. But, like, I'm not a fan of the Fast and Furious series, but I will be watching the 7th movie just for James Wan. And I hope he can make it good. Let's hope he can make it good. Like, I never was a fan of the Fast and Furious series. Other movie of course, he's got Insidious 2 coming out in September. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so let's move on to The Conjuring. So, when the first trailer was released, everyone was like talking about how amazing this movie looks from the trailer, and I'm talking about the first ever trailer here, and I was like, so of course I watched it and I was like, really? Like, this is what everyone's getting hyped up about? Like, okay, I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but that trailer didn't do anything for me. I was quite unimpressed, let's just say that. The clap, they showed the clap scare in the first ever trailer, and that was quite good. Aside from that, the trailer was kind of lame, in my opinion. I wasn't a fan of that, that's the trailer. Like, don't get me wrong, I didn't think the film was going to be bad simply because the trailer unimpressed me, because at the end of the day, it's only a trailer, and they can only show so much in a trailer. So, and the fact that James Wan was directing this made me think, well, I'm still going to give the film a chance. I mean, it's James Wan, and a trailer is only a trailer, so it's not as if, that represents the quality of the movie. So, I'm not saying the trailer, like, cemented my opinion of the movie before I even watched it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the trailer didn't really impress me that much. The second trailer apparently showed a lot more. Like, everyone was complaining about how the second trailer spoiled a lot. So I kind of stayed away from that and didn't bother watching it. But unfortunately, I was forced to watch the second trailer when I went to see The Purge in the cinemas, because they showed the second trailer, like, before The Purge. That was one of the trailers attached to The Purge. So I was kind of forced to watch it. So I was kind of pissed off about that, since, the second trailer did spoil quite a bit. So I was kind of annoyed that I was kind of forced to watch that trailer. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. I think I'm going to move on to talking about the actual movie now. So, the movie, the story of the movie is really basic and simple. It's a haunted house movie. A family move into a haunted house, and they're being haunted by the ghost which inhabits the house. That's it. That's the movie. Simple. Nothing wrong with being simple. As long as the movie's enjoyable and entertaining. It's nothing wrong with being simple. No, I'm not sure about this movie. I'm not sure. It's not great. I'm tripping over my words here. It's okay. It's okay. That's all I really feel. I mean, this film's getting like positive reviews up the ass. Like there are so many. Like everyone's praising this movie to hell. All the critics and just the general public, from what I can tell. I guess I'm in the minority here, but I'm not a fan of this movie. No, I don't necessarily dislike the movie, but it's okay. I'll say that it's okay. At least I'm slightly leaning over towards liking it very slightly. So I think the fact that James Wan directed this movie is kind of making me give this movie a lot more leeway. I will admit, if James Wan did not direct this movie, I would have been really bored throughout the majority of it. I wouldn't give this movie as much leeway as I have right now, for the simple fact that James Wan directed it. For the simple fact that James Wan directed this movie, it's kind of like I was investing my attention into the movie for that simple fact. Like, in moments where I would have been bored, I was like giving the film the benefit of the doubt simply because James Wan was the one who directed it. You know, because I respect the guy so much, I'm willing to, you know, go the extra mile and, you know, use the extra brain power to pay attention to the movie. Simply because he directed it. But no, it's okay. I'm in the minority here, so you know, maybe if you're watching this and if you're watching this, I'm just saying, and you haven't seen the movie yet, you might like it because the majority of people seem to like this movie, but I personally felt as if it was like really average. And like, it's a standard haunted house movie, but there's nothing wrong with being a standard movie of a genre that you're going for, as long as the movie's enjoyable or entertaining. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, because for example, Death Sentence is a good example. That's a really generic, standard revenge movie, but I really liked that movie. I really enjoyed that movie. It's just really entertaining, really enjoyable. Another good example would be Jack Reacher. That was the Tom Cruise movie, which came out in 2012. A really generic, really standard action movie, but I enjoyed it. I think that was a really enjoyable action movie. I actually quite liked that movie. That was quite good. I like Tom Cruise anyway, so I guess that kind of held my attention even more so. Another example, I would say Blitz. I think quite a lot of people dislike that movie, but it's a really standard, generic action movie with Jason Statham. Is that how you pronounce it? Statham? I don't know, but I like Jason Statham anyway, but that movie, I like that movie. You know, that's what I'm saying. Just because a movie's a really generic movie of its genre doesn't mean I'm automatically gonna hate it. Like, I'm not saying a movie has to do something new or inventive within its genre for me to like it. I can still like a movie if it doesn't do anything new within its genre, as long as the movie's entertaining and or enjoyable, which The Conjuring, in my opinion, wasn't. Like, it was enjoyable on a very, very minuscule scale, I would say. So why did I don't know, I just found it boring. You're asking me why I found the movie boring, and I'm just going to say I just found it boring because I found it boring. Okay, let's see if I can kind of elaborate on this. None of the scares are too inventive or creative. Like, the thing is, like I said, it's a generic standard haunted house movie, but the scares would still have to be good, or yes, you know, good, or the scares would still have to be like inventive or creative to some degree, because the movie is already a standard generic haunted house movie. Like, for example, Jack Reacher. Let's go back to Jack Reacher as an example. Really generic standard haunted house movie. No, I mean, Jack Reacher was a very standard generic action movie, but it had good action scenes in it. There were some really cool action scenes in there. And it had a wonderful opening scene where the guy with the sniper rifle was killing a bunch of people. That was quite powerful. That scene was like genuinely powerful. Like when he killed the woman with the baby and everything, you're actually kind of sitting there like oh my god, and like, you know, that scene was actually quite effective. So I'm saying, even though Jack Reacher was a standard action movie, it still had scenes in it which stood out, which were like slightly creative, or at least really stood out. And same with Blitz. Blitz had a really awesome bad guy, in my opinion. The bad guy in Blitz, I really got a kick out. Death Sentence had Kevin Bacon, I loved Kevin Bacon. It had a really amazing, really, really well shot car park chase sequence. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, the car park chase sequence. Like, I want to watch some sort of behind the scenes making of documentary to see how they filmed that, because on a technical scale, that scene was amazing. Like, the way it's shot, I want to know how they filmed that scene, because That scene was damn good. So even though the point I'm trying to get across here, even though films like Death Sentence or Jack Reacher or Blitz were really generic action movies or revenge movies, they still had things in them which were like really like just like they had particular scenes or elements about them which were really entertaining, and that's one thing The Conjuring didn't really have to me. It just felt really bland overall. Like you still should do some creative scares in a standard haunted house movie, I feel, in my opinion. Like the clap scare was really the only scare which I liked, and even then they spoiled down the trailer. Like the trailer should have ended with the clap, you know, the arms going out the closet and going. It should have ended at that, but instead the trailer continues on to show you what happens when she investigates where the clapping is coming from, and they spoil the punchline, which is what I really hate about the trailer. Because if I was watching this movie without the trailer spoiling the punchline, I would have sat there on the edge of my seats, you know, like absolutely, you know, wondering what the hell's going to happen next when she gets to the source of the clapping and investigates closet. Like I would have been on the edge of my seat wondering what the hell's going to happen next, but instead I'm just sitting there just sitting there kind of bored because I know the punchline to the scare. So I feel as if the trailer did hurt the movie in that respect. And like I said, none of the scares are really that inventive. Like they play off some really redundant cliches, like the girl has an imaginary friend, which is obviously the ghost. So the parents are like, you know, who are you talking to, honey? And she's just like, oh, my imaginary friend, Clara. She's my imaginary friend. So like the imaginary friend cliche is just so overused. I mean, please. Like rules 101 on when making a haunted house movie, do not do that. No, don't pull off the imaginary friend thing. That's overused big time. It didn't work well in Paranormal Activity 3. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and rant off a bunch of movies which use that imaginary friend cliche. Paranormal Activity 3 is really the only one that comes to mind without me having to think. Amityville Horror is another one. But yeah, the imaginary friend cliche really does my head in. They use the mirror scare a few times as well, which I don't quite like. The way I feel about, this is my opinion on mirror scares, you should not do a mirror scare unless it's something which has not been done before. And you might be saying, well, there's not much things you can do with a mirror scare, so you shouldn't really criticize them for having a mirror scare which is uncreative or not inventive. Well, that's my point. You should not put a mirror scare in your movie unless you're doing something different with the mirror scare. Because that's the thing with mirror scares, they are quite limited. There's not much there's not much variety of things you can do with a mirror scare. Like the killer appears behind the victim or the ghost appears behind the victim. That's one thing you can do. Or the reflection within the mirror like grabs the person and pulls them inside the mirror, or attacks them from within inside the mirror. That's really all you can do with mirror scares. So that's my point. You shouldn't pull off mirror scares unless you have something inventive or something different to pull off a mirror scare. And this movie doesn't do anything different with mirror scares. Like Poltergeist had a good mirror scare. That was quite different, you know, with the guy's pulling off his face and shit. That was quite good. But The Conjuring, the mirror scares in The Conjuring, they're just... No, they're just like really generic stuff, like the ghost appearing behind them in a reflection. Like, I shit you not, they use that scare. And like, especially for someone like James Wan, I'm kind of like wondering how he could stoop to that level to use that sort of like mirror scare. Like, I was quite surprised he was willing to go that low to use a mirror scare like that. Like I was expecting him to be above that sort of stuff. Like I feel kind of bad mouthing James Wan here, because he is a talented director, don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying I was surprised he actually used that mirror scare. Like, really? You actually did that? Like, whoa. I don't know, in my opinion, other people may feel differently about it, but in my opinion, you should not do a mirror scare unless it's something different. Just the way I feel. Okay, so the death of this is not really a spoiler, but early on in the movie, the dog dies through unexplained means. I thought that was a kind of lame moment, because basically the parents are inside the house and they hear the daughter screaming. The daughter's like playing outside and they hear her screaming, and all of a sudden there's this like super dramatic music. Like, you know, the music's just so dramatic, so intense, so passionate, and the parents run outside and they see the dog's dead, and that is what the daughter was scaring at. And I absolutely despise it when movies do this. I can't stand it. Like, Without me having to sit here and think about it for like 5 minutes, the Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy is one thing that comes to mind. Like really early on in the movie, basically it's about a family. They go into a haunted house, but before that, the boy runs out of his bedroom and he's screaming at the top of his lungs. They have this extremely dramatic, like passionate music playing. And of course Eddie Murphy asks his son, "Oh, what's wrong?" And he says there's a spider in his room. So that's what he was screaming about. So it's just like when the music's used, like this insanely dramatic music is used for these moments where nothing dramatic is happening, that stuff just really pisses me off. So The Conjuring, that's one thing which really bugged me about The Conjuring. That super dramatic music playing when something not dramatic at all was happening, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I think I've talked about this point for too long now, but I'm saying that moment really pissed me off. They really bugged me. Like, I was kind of like, I kind of felt like a really cynical asshole because I really hated that moment. I felt really like a really cynical asshole. I was probably the only person in the room who was kind of bugged by it. But like, seriously, after that moment I was kind of like, oh Jesus, like I was probably the only person in the room who was thinking this. But after that moment ended, I was kind of like facepalming, like Jesus, that moment. Like, I'm sure no one else ever thought twice about that, but I was probably like the cynical asshole in the crowd who was kind of just really pissed off by that moment. Like, whoa, I didn't like that. Okay, so I want let's go into a positive thing about the movie, because I'm bitching about the movie quite a bit here. One positive thing about the movie is the kids. Generally, it's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction from me. I hate children characters, especially in horror movies. Not all the time, but most of the time. And in this movie, I feel as if the kid actors, or the kid characters, were okay. Like, the fact that, like, don't get me wrong, it's not as if I was rooting for them or anything like that, but the fact that I didn't want them to die a horrible, horrific death is an achievement, because I normally do want the kids in horror movies to die a horrible, horrific death, because they are, most of the time, not all the time, I'm just saying, most of the time, the children in horror movies are extremely annoying and you just want them to die extremely painful death. But the fact that in The Conjuring I had a neutral opinion on the the fact that I had a neutral opinion of the children is an achievement. So well done The Conjuring for not wanting me, I'm having trouble wording this. So well done to The Conjuring for not making me want to see the children die a really horrible death. That's what I'm saying. So the children, they weren't annoying or anything. Like, don't get me wrong, they weren't featured much in the movie anyway. Like, they weren't featured predominantly anyway. But even then, the fact that I didn't want them to die is a good thing. The fact that I had a neutral opinion of them is a positive thing I can give to The Conjuring. So, well done to The Conjuring for that. I didn't find the kids annoying. I had a neutral opinion on them, so good job. Next thing to talk about. This only happened in one or two moments, and the dialogue felt a bit unnatural at one or two points. The one moment which I can recall, which comes to my head, is basically very early on, once they moved into the haunted house, of course, the kid's foot is grabbed, and he's being pulled by the ghost. Like, the ghost kind of grabs onto his foot and kind of pulls him when he's lying in bed. The ghost doesn't pull him off the bed, but it just kind of gives him a little yank, you know. So at first the boy thinks it's his sister who's sleeping in the same room. He thinks his sister's just messing around with him, and he's like, "Oh, what are you doing? Stop grabbing my feet." He says something like that. So that's fine. I'm not saying that's unnatural dialogue. That's fine. But like 2 days, I think in the next night, the ghost is grabbing onto his feet again and starts yanking on him. So once again, you can see the boy kind of getting pulled back a little bit, kind of, and then he's like. Once again, he thinks his sister is doing it, and he's like, stop grabbing my feet. That's what he says. The fact that he says, stop grabbing my feet, that's one line I just don't agree with. I feel as if it feels really forced, really unnatural. Like, I see where they're going with this. Like, no, like what I'm saying is, he said, stop it, that felt fine, but as soon as he said, because he goes, stop grabbing my feet, I was like, sitting there like, did he just say that? I don't know, to me it just felt really unnatural. Once again, I might just be in the really nitpicky, cynical asshole here, but it just felt really unnatural to me. Like, I do see where they're going with this though, like, I guess they are thinking some audience members may be confused to what is exactly is happening here. They might not quite see, some of the audience members might not quite get that the ghost is grabbing onto his feet and giving him a little yank. Some audience members might not quite catch on to the fact that's what the ghost is doing, and they may be confused to what is happening here. So I guess that's why they put the line in there. I guess that's why they had the kid to say, "Stop grabbing my feet," so everyone knows that the ghost. So, you know, when people are confused in the crowd, they're like, "Oh, it's the ghost grabbing onto his feet." That makes sense. I don't know. That kind of. I guess I feel as if they should have put more faith into the audience and just not put that line in there at all. It just felt really unnatural to me. I didn't like that line. The kids, yeah, I said the kids. Oh, okay, let's move on to the ghost. So the ghost doesn't look frightening. So as a result, the movie is not frightening, in my opinion. Like, a lot of people find this, are saying this movie is like absolutely terrifying. In my opinion, the movie isn't frightening. This doesn't mean the movie's bad. Once again, a horror movie doesn't have to be frightening to be good. It can still be a very good movie. Like, you know, my most favourite horror movies of all time are movies which I don't find frightening. So, you know, it's a very this should be basic knowledge here. But I'm not saying a horror movie has to be frightening to be good, because that is just wrong. Anyone who thinks this, just know. A horror movie does not have to be scary or frightening or creepy in the slightest to be frightening. As long as it's entertaining or enjoyable, that's a good. As long as it's entertaining or enjoyable, it's fine. The Conjuring, once again, it isn't frightening, like I said. So, and I just wanted to clarify that I don't think that's not a bad thing. But I'm just saying, people are going to ask me regardless whether or not I find it frightening. Like, this is going to happen with horror movies when they are wildly considered to be frightening. I guess you should throw that out there in your review if you agree with that. Personally, I don't. And the main problem is simply because the ghost does not look frightening. The ghost is a female ghost. The ghost just doesn't look scary. That's simply it. And the thing is, like, with Insidious, going back to Insidious, like, Lipstick Face, you know, that's his actual name. But that, for those of you who think I'm trying to be witty by calling him Lipstick Face, no, that's his actual name. Or the Darth Maul demon, whatever you want to call him, in Insidious. A lot of people don't find him frightening. I'm one of them. And even though I don't, like, that's the thing, a lot, when he gets, he's featured quite a lot in the second half of the movie, Lipstick Face, and that's a problem a lot of people have as well, because they feel as if he doesn't look, you know, it's best left to your imagination, or they show him too much, so as a result he's not that frightening anymore, because they show him way too much. That's how a lot of people feel about Insidious and the second half of Insidious. But the thing is, with me, if I find the ghost frightening and then I started to not find the ghost frightening because they showed the ghost too much, I could still get a kick out of just looking at the ghost, because Lipstick Face looks cool. That's how I feel about him. I think he's a cool design. Like, you know, but I just dug the design of Lipstick Face. I just think he looks really badass. So I found it amusing just watching him on screen, just, you know, sitting there, just staring at him. That alone to me was entertaining, because I admired the design of the ghost. So even though I don't find the ghost frightening, I can still admire the design of the ghost. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the point I'm trying to get across here. And that's the thing. The ghost in The Conjuring isn't frightening to me, and I also just don't find her amusing to look at, because the design of the ghost in here just isn't creepy, or neither is it too, like, interesting to look at. It's just a really generic ghost. That's really all I have to say. So the ghost alone doesn't look interesting or amusing at all to me. It's just the way I feel. So that's another bad thing about the movie. So next thing, this is by far the worst part of the movie, and like what kind of killed the movie for me. The climax. The climax of this movie is fucking awful. It's bad. It ends, I'm not going to spoil it, but it ends with an exorcism scene. That's the climax, an exorcism. It's bad. Like, the thing is with exorcism scenes, there's not much things you can do with exorcism scenes. I mean, like, what can you do with them? Because they basically amount to a priest or a character reading scriptures from the Bible. while, spraying, holy water at the demon. The power of Christ compels you, that sort of stuff. That's really it. Like, I can kind of respect or sympathize with the fact that there's not much things you can do with an exorcism scene, I suppose. But if you can't think of much interesting things to do with an exorcism scene, don't do an exorcism scene. Like I was saying about the mirror scares, it's just the way I feel. If you can't think of much interesting or inventive or creative things which will happen within the exorcism scene, do not write an exorcism scene. That's just how I feel. And that's the thing with exorcism scenes. Like mirror scares, they're quite limited because they're basically limited to a priest or a character just reading scriptures from the Bible and just reading them at the demon. That's pretty much it. Like, I think The Exorcist, the actual movie The Exorcist now, the famous one, that had an amazing exorcism scene, and the resolution to the exorcism was mind-blowing to me. Because that's the thing with exorcism scenes. All it is the character just reading scriptures from the Bible, and that defeats the demon. That's what kills or beats the demon. That's it. Not very exciting to watch, is it? It's pretty anticlimactic, and it's not entertaining, and it's not exciting to watch, if you get what I'm saying, because you're just watching a character stand there and read from the Bible. Does that sound like a really exciting climax to the movie? Like, you've sat through the whole entire movie and that's what it amounted to. So it's not very entertaining to watch. But The Exorcist went against that, and they did something insanely awesome with the exorcism scene. And the way they resolve the exorcism is, to me, it's mind-blowing. I'm not going to spoil it, just in case somebody's watching this who hasn't seen The Exorcist. So I do obviously definitely recommend The Exorcist if you haven't seen it yet. It's an amazing movie, of course. But the way that movie ends, the way the exorcism scene is resolved is like, whoa, it's good. It's really good. Like, it's something you don't see coming. It's not just a character standing there reading from a Bible. They actually do something different, and it's done so well. So moving on to Conjuring. That's my point. So the exorcism scene, they don't do anything creative with it. It's just insanely boring. Like, even the fact that James Wan is the person that directed this wasn't enough to hold my interest. This exorcism scene is awful. It's like just shit. Like, it's bad. Like, I can't emphasize enough how bad the scene was. Like, again, as always, just my opinion. Some people might like the scene. I certainly, as no way in hell did I like the scene. Like, I don't know. If you haven't seen much haunted house movies or exorcism movies, you might enjoy this movie. But for someone who has seen quite a few exorcism movies or haunted house movies, you're gonna find the exorcism scene of this movie just insanely boring. Or at least, I don't know. It seems natural if you've seen a lot of exorcism movies. Like, I'm not trying to speak for other people and say this is what they think, but I'm saying you're probably I think you probably would find the climax of this movie really boring if you have seen a lot of exorcism movies or haunted house movies. But yeah, it's just the climax of this movie is bad. Like, I can't believe they made it so bad. It's like, I was sitting there watching it and I was like, I can't believe this movie is the climax of this movie is so bad. Like, especially the fact that James Wan is the person that directed this, especially made me even more shocked at how terrible the climax of the movie was. Like, it's just really generic, really bland, really mediocre, really nothing. That's what it is. It's just really nothing. Do I have anything else to say? It's shot well, that's really all I have to say, but it's James Wan's. What do you expect? Of course it's shot well. The guy knows where to point the camera, so what do you expect? Of course it's shot well. That should go without saying. I shouldn't have to say that. You should already know that by now. Like, James Wan has built up his reputation at this point as the guy who knows where to point the camera, so as usual, you can have faith in him to point the camera in the right place. That's what I'm saying. How about Billy the Puppet? I didn't see Billy the Puppet at all. For those of you who are wondering what the hell I'm talking about, Billy the Puppet is the name of the puppet in the Saw movies. James Wan has said he's going to feature Billy Puppet in some way, shape or form in every single one of his movies. So he was in Death Sentence, he was in Dead Silence, he was in Insidious. In Insidious and Dead Silence, no. In Death Sentence and Insidious, Billy only appeared through like, well, he was graffitied onto a wall. Billy's face was graffitied onto a wall in Death Sentence, and then in Insidious, his face was drawn on a chalkboard. So he doesn't appear himself, because in Dead Silence, the actual puppet Billy did appear. So he basically, I was on a lookout for Billy in The Conjuring, because like I said, James said that he's going to feature Billy the Puppet in every one of his movies. And I did not see him in The Conjuring at all. I went online and asked about to see if anyone, you know, on the message boards and stuff. No one else seems to have spotted Billy. And if there would be a place for him to be, he would be in that room with all the ghost hunting stuff, you know, with all the cool looking stuff. So if there is a place, if he is in the movie, I would bet he's somewhere in that room. But I got a feeling James Wan kind of skimped out on this and didn't bother putting him in, which I'm kind of saddened by. I don't know. I feel that kind of makes me feel a little bad. Like, not only as a Saw fan, I'm kind of like, oh, you know, I don't know. Maybe no one's just spotted him yet, and Billy's really well hidden. Or maybe James Wan just didn't put him in the movie at all. I think it's that. I think James Wan has kind of moved on from Billy. He's kind of grown out of like putting Billy in his movies, which I'm kind of like a bit saddened by. I kind of feel a little bit bad because of that. Because you know, it's always fun trying to find Billy in these movies. I know he's kind of, I don't know, he may be in the movie, but I didn't see him, and no one else has either. At least from the people's responses I've seen, no one's seen him. So I got a feeling James Wan kind of just copped out on us here, so I kind of feel bad about that. That's all I have to say. So The Conjuring, it's a really standard generic haunted house movie. It doesn't do anything new. All of the scares are really bland, really generic scares. There's a lot of jump scares, if that bugs you. Jump scares bug me, but when they're done well, I can kind of, you know, it's the same with everything. If jump scares are done well, they're done well. They can be done poorly, and they're done poorly. In The Conjuring, I don't know, most of them were just... I do feel as if most of the jump scares were done rather poorly. There were one or two jump scares which I think, you know, they were okay, but for the most part, the jump scares, like, there's a lot of them. They do overuse them. James Wan does overuse the jump scares in this movie, and most of them just don't really fit. They feel really forced. They're just there to make you jump, you know. So the movie is just a really standard boring haunted house movie. If you're like, all of the scares are really generic. There's nothing creative and new with the scares. None of them are that inventive, aside from the scare. The kids aren't annoying, which is a plus. Well done. Yeah, the ghost doesn't look frightening to me, or neither is her design. Neither is the design very inventive or anything. Like, the ghost looks really lazy. Like, they were really lazy with the makeup on the ghost. It's shot well though. The climax is one of the worst climaxes I've ever seen in a modern horror. Well, not one of the worst I've ever seen, but it's a very, very, very poor climax. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, okay, I think that's all I have to say there. So, yeah, do I recommend the movie? If you haven't seen much haunted house movies, check it out, because, you know, most of this will be new to you. But if you're kind of experienced in the horror genre, I don't know. I personally would stay away from this movie if you're experienced in the horror genre. I think you'll be bored by this movie for the most part, because it doesn't do anything new. And like I said, it's nothing... let me retract that statement. There's nothing wrong with not doing anything new or inventive, but as long as the movie's enjoyable or entertaining, it's enjoyable or entertaining, you know? It doesn't have to be new or inventive. Like, Insidious kind of did something kind of inventive with that whole, like, second world thing, where, you know, with the astral... Because it was kind of exploring astral projecting and this whole other world with all these ghosts. So Insidious kind of did something a little bit new, if you know what I'm saying. But The Conjuring doesn't do anything new. Even the scares are really aren't very inventive or anything like that. Like, I'm saying, even if you made the scares inventive, that wouldn't make the movie not a standard haunted house movie. It would still be a standard haunted house movie, because the plot is of a standard haunted house movie. But yeah, like, so I'm saying, even as a standard haunted house movie, none of the scares are very inventive, and as a standard haunted house movie, it's just a really boring one as well, because I just feel, didn't find it very entertaining or enjoyable. It's just the way I feel. So I don't know. Even though I've said that, I'm kind of thinking maybe you should watch this movie because most people seem to be really loving this movie, including the critics. So you might want to check out the movie because I might be in the minority here. So maybe you should check out the movie. I don't know. It's up to you just to decide. Take my opinion for what's worth. Bearing in mind, most people seem to really love this movie. So it's your choice. There's one other thing I wanted to say. Okay, so final opinion, just to clear the air here. I still think it's okay. It's okay. It's not poor, but it's nothing special, and I'm not sure if I would even call it good. I'm not sure if I would rate this on a scale of 1 to 10. It would either be a 5, which is I don't like it, I don't dislike it, it's in the middle, or a 5.5 where I'm very, very slightly kind of leaning towards liking it, but only ever so slightly. That's kind of how I feel about the movie. That's all I have to say. Okay, I'm done. So yeah, that's my thoughts on The Conjuring. So thanks for watching, and see ya.